Grid layout. When talking about layout on grid applications, we'll have to observe different screens. So first we need to understand that we have different models on grid application, and the initial model usually is the grid itself. So let's run this application. So we can see this is the default application that Scriptcase creates. So you have the header, then you have toolbar with the buttons on top, then you have the body of the application, you have footer and also button toolbar. The footer is not being displayed here, but we have all these parts, and this is very useful for you to understand how we'll be able to modify the layout of the grid application. So back here to the development environment, we can see that we have the initial model as grid, and we are going to have the orientation, and the default one is horizontal, but you have different options here to use. You have the vertical, horizontal, slide, and user defined. So if you set it into vertical, then you're going to have the grid like this, just by doing any type of change. It's a little mess here, but then back to Scriptcase, you can define the lines per page. We can have, for example, just one line per page. It makes more sense for this orientation. And you should have here to organize the fields. So if you want to organize the fields, you have to go field by field. So I'll go here to fields, ID, for example, and define the CSS to be displayed in the left side in this case. So we have the display settings, and then we can find here all the options where we can define the layout for this field. So we have here the example with the field in the right side, in the middle, and in the left side. Also for the records, then you have these options to organize here the fields inside the application. You can also set the size, add more fields, and it's going to be according to your selection here, but it depends on how you want to organize this grid application. If you are using the vertical option, this is going to be the options that you're going to have. Then if you have the slide, it's very similar to the vertical option. You're going to have the same visualization, but the difference here is that you are also able to use the blocks. Then if you go here to this layout area, you're going to see blocks. It is available for slide orientation. So in the same way you can do within the form application, you can create blocks and divide your fields into blocks. If you change here the orientation into vertical, for example, then you go to blocks, you see that this option will be not available. It says that it's only available when the orientation is set as slide. Okay, so I'll go here to the website where we have some examples. So horizontal, which is the default one, then we have vertical. Then here we can see one example with different fields, and we have here 2 records per page. Okay, then you have also this option with the slide. So this is an employee profile, for example. So you have the blocks, employee profile, and address. So as we can see here, using the slide, we can have blocks, and we have the grid with the user defined. This is customized HTML. You'll be able to create manually. So if you set here within the grid models the orientation as user defined, you'll be able to set a HTML template to the body of the application. I can go here to settings, and then I'll see that I have one field saying body template, and I can choose here one HTML profile for this body template. So we have the header template, we have the body template, and footer template. If we set the orientation to horizontal, for example, we are going to see that the option for body template will disappear. So we don't have the body template, we have only header, footer, and buttons and themes. So if we use the user defined, we are going to be able to set this body, and the template you can build using here the layout area HTML templates. You will see that we'll have option for header, footer, and user HTML. So you can create here your template using HTML and apply to your grid application. In this way, you'll be able to use all the options from grid application with customized HTML for the body. You can see this example. It's available for you on the samples application if you want to have an idea, and we have also another video in this list for you to see one practical example using the grid user defined. So back here we can see inside head and footer that you can set the variables for this template. So first you choose the template. Here inside settings you have different options. From script case you can also build your own options, and after you choose here the template, you'll be able to set the value for the variables using here this area, and also to display or not. In the case of the footer, we are not displaying, we can display here as a test, and I will add here a value just for us to view the option. Let me change here the orientation to horizontal. Okay, so here we can see the footer. Okay, we are now displaying only one record. I will change here to 5, and we can have our horizontal grid again with 5 records per page. Talking about pagination, you're going to have the option here to set total, partial, or infinite scroll. So you can have also this option depending on the amount of pages that you have. I can show you here examples of this type of pagination. We can go here to navigation options. So we have the simple infinite scroll with the horizontal grid. We have also the infinite scroll with the fixed height. And the last one as example, the grid slide with images using the infinite scrolling. So very useful option for you also, the grid with infinite scroll, and you'll be able to define lines per page or increment for the infinite scroll if it's the option, if the options will open with modal, the height, the table wide unit, also the option for fixed columns and options for the groups. And according to your model, you'll be able also to use the options of layout from each model. So for example, if you are playing with summary, you're going to have here the option for layout. So you can set header and footer for layout from summary, and also the chart options. You have here the settings where you can set the options for the charts integrated with the grid application. Inside grid application, you also have the option settings where you can set here margins, for example, alignment, table columns, and etc. And this is how you're going to start playing with the grid layout options.